Here's the point for historical perspective. This obviously doesn't happen very often to the Cardinals. Like Bill DeWitt took over in 1996. The Cardinals, there were 5 different seasons since he's been the owner where they never spent a day. Well, let me do it this way. There were several seasons where they never spent a day under 500 the entire season. But there are 5 different seasons where they were never worse than 4 games under 500. Hold on one second. I'm screwing my own note up. There have been 21 seasons where Bill DeWitt's Cardinals were never worse than during the season 4 games under 500. 21 times that's happened, where they may have bubbled under and gone a little bit under 500, but they didn't stay there. Or if they stayed there, it wasn't by a tremendous amount. 1997 being one exception. 1999. I think they were 12 games under. That was another exception. But even though the Cardinals haven't had a losing season since 2007, that team, here's what would make this if the Cardinals finish 15, 16, 17, 14 even games under 500, they would be worse than the 2007 team that went 78 and 84. They'd be worse on winning percentage. But also because that team never was any worse than 11 games under during 500 with Tony La Russa as a manager. And the 1999 Cardinals had a losing season. They were 75 and 86, but as I mentioned a few moments ago, they were never any worse than 12 under. And even that happened next to the last game of the season. So this would be historically bad as far as just like getting left behind and way behind at an early stage of the season. You'd have to go back to 1997 to see anything that was remotely close to this, or the thing that most closely resembles what we've seen in 2023. And so it's the question is the embarrassment of that record this season, is it going to cut into the Cardinals' arrogance, haughtiness, complacency? Are they going to react to it like, you know what, this will never happen again? We cannot stomach this anymore. We're not going to let it happen. We have got to turn this thing around. Does this kind of season fuel the hunger at the highest levels in an organization? You know what? I would really love to say yes, but I don't know. My answer is I don't know. They've lost a lot of trust from where I sit because they took their success for granted. And their downfall this season could have been avoided. It really could have. I'm not saying they would have won 95 games. I'm just saying they ignored the obvious glaring problems with the starting rotation and even the bullpen. They just ignored it during the offseason. They made one move in the offseason that mattered, and even that turned out poorly because it disrupted the team early in the year when the pitchers were whining for, we want Yadi. This guy isn't Yadi. That started things off on a terrible foot, so to speak. And I love Wilson Contreras, and he's going to be fine. But even the one move they made of any kind of magnitude blew up on him because, again, they have a weak-minded starting rotation that wants to blame other people for their issues. And you have a front office who constantly overestimates what they have. It could have been avoided. They could be a winning team. They could be in a playoff hunt. But you had the front office ignoring a huge, glaring, obvious issue. And you have a manager who benefited greatly last year from an excellent defense, and he was the bench coach in 2021 when they had an excellent defense, and he was a bench coach in 20 and 19 when they had a really strong defense. And despite knowing how important that was, he let this defense deteriorate. That's what I mean when I say a lot of this crap could have been avoided. But the hubris is the word the Greeks have for it. The hubris finally caught up to them, and they got their reckoning by being so arrogant and complacent and haughty. But can you turn that attitude completely around in one off season? You hope so. I wouldn't bet much money on it. Maybe, I don't know, if I got a few loose singles in my wallet, that's about it. Well, they got to earn back the trust, Jim Hewer, right?
Oh, 100%. No doubt. As you kind of sum it up here and put those numbers in historical perspective, if this doesn't scream to them, maybe we should reevaluate and redo some things and look at things differently, it's back to the arrogance again. No, we'll be fine. No, you're not fine. Where you're at is awful. It's embarrassing. It's, for me, Bernie, it's more embarrassing because you actually were trying to win. You weren't trying to tank, but you're closer to tanking. You're right next to teams that are tanking. And to sit here and go, well, we'll just no. Everything you're doing is wrong, and you're seeing it on a daily basis here with the baseball team. So,
I think Marmol, and there's no doubt in my mind he'll be back next season because of course he's president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak's guy, and if Marmol fails to the extent we're even DeWitt and Mozeliak think, okay, we don't want to, but we're gonna have to make a change here. They're gonna stand by him for as long as they can, and I'm talking about losing. And we know this year's already gone, but I know some people want everybody fired. It's not going to happen. And as much wish casting is done, it's not going to happen. My friend Will Leach on Seeing Red, you can listen to it at 590 The Fan, or you can access it 590thefan.com or through the 590 The Fan app. He was in Monday's when we recorded the pod on Monday. I mean, Will really was just trying to convince himself that there was still a way that Mozeliak could be fired. And I said, no, I don't agree with you, my friend. I said, Bill DeWitt's firmly behind him and was actually kind of petulant about that when asked about it not that long ago. They signed him to a 2-year extension through 2025, and he will fulfill that contract. I mean, DeWitt just cut Martin Kilcoyne off, man.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't going to fire him. Now, the one thing I could see, now, I don't put a big percentage on this, but the one scenario, at least I think is possible, is things, they have another bad offseason, and Mo thinks he did enough, and it wasn't enough, and he raised everyone's expectations about adding starting pitching, the quality of that starting pitching, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't come through. He overestimates what he has again, and it gets really, really bad again next season. I don't rule out a scenario in which Mozeliak, who's very loyal to DeWitt is very loyal to Mo, but where Mo realizes he's become a burden for Bill DeWitt, a burden for the franchise, and that he is kind of burned out on the failure and has kind of lost confidence in his ability to be an effective leader of the baseball operation, where he would just gracefully or graciously resign. I do not rule that out, okay? But this idea of like, he'll be fired. I can see where he'll be fired. No, he's not going to be fired. I could see a resignation or a promotion. I put air quotes around promotion. But you know what the problem with that scenario is? With all due respect to Randy Flores, who I do think is very good, even though, of course, there's people want to blame him for the pitching problems. instead of the guy in charge of putting the pitching together. That would be John Mozeliak. Bill DeWitt, when he makes a change, whenever that may be, after 2025, or if John Mozeliak feels like he's compelled to resign because he thinks he owes that to Bill DeWitt, and Bill DeWitt may tell him no, but the problem is for anything to truly get better, where you get a new voice, a new set of eyes, a new direction, a new vision, Bill DeWitt's going to have to go outside the organization to do that. The last time Bill DeWitt went outside the organization to make a major hire, it was Jeff Luhnow, and the Cardinals went off on a very prosperous run because of the way Luhnow set up their way of procuring and developing talent. And he did a great job. And he eventually kind of self-destructed, and that really came to light when he was the Houston general manager. They did win a World Series with him, but there's a lot of shady stuff going on, which I said at the time. This whole computer thing where the Cardinals got, rocked by Manfred, and they've had to fire their director of scouting for spying into the Astros proprietary data system, right? I'm like, when Chris Correa said, well, I was doing it because I'm convinced that the Astros were stealing our stuff, because there was a bunch of guys who went with Luhnow to Houston, and they figured out how to get inside our system, and I was trying to catch them. I actually believe that. And I'm not being an apologist. Knowing what we know about Luhnow, I have no doubt that that's true. So Luhnow, though, made an absolutely tremendous impact, and it was all positive,
Mm-hmm.
So does Bill DeWitt, he's 81 years old, if there is a cause or a reason where he believes there's got to be a change, or where Mozeliak takes it out of his hands and resigns, if it comes to that, does Bill DeWitt want to start over with someone on the outside that he doesn't really know? And Jeff Luhnow, understand, was a complete stranger when Bill DeWitt hired him, other than the process of job interview and getting to know him right before he hired him. He didn't know Jeff Luhnow, never heard of him. He shopped around and asked people for advice, somebody from the corporate community that's really, really good about efficiency and finding a better model for procuring talent. And he was recommended by some other people, and it was a great recommendation, and Bill DeWitt went with it. And it was quite a risk at the time. He had Walt Jocketty, a very successful general manager. But Luhnow took them to a higher level in terms of personnel matters, and it worked great. Does Bill DeWitt have it in him to do it again? That's going to be my big question. So all the people who want Mo fired, or all the people who heard me say, well, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Mo will resign at some point if this losing continues. I'm talking about not this year, but going into next year. Does it matter? If Bill DeWitt's going to promote Gersh, does it matter?
That's scary.
I got the easy answer. No. Nada.
Glad you agree, because I was like,
no
ooh.
bueno. Randy Flores, I would have some hope with. He's got an eye for talent. He's also taken on more responsibility, and he needs to. And maybe he's the guy that's being trained to be the eventual successor. I really don't know. But you can draw clues from the way his job has grown in prominence. It's not just drafting players. So anyway, it's very interesting. But Bill DeWitt's 81, and I don't say that in any way to take a shot at him. I have great respect for what he's done here overall. But at some point, man, maybe you're not as fiercely hungry about the level of where you want your team to be. You just roll with it a little better. And I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying, when age becomes a factor, then it does raise some questions, and it has nothing to do with his mental acuity or anything like that. It's just a matter of, are you going to let your guard down? Are you going to kind of let things slide and say, oh, we're fine, we know what we're doing? Are you going to fall into that trap because you're so used to winning, you assume that you all still have the magic touch and the Cardinals will rise again, rather than understanding it's probably going to take a new voice, new vision from the outside to help you get back to where you need to be. That's my opinion anyway.
There's something to be said for in an organization that's been together as long as they have. At some point, you have to feel a little uncomfortable to maybe get jolted to move and get the wheels going in the right direction again when it's not going well. I'm not saying that needs to be done all the time, but every once in a while there needs to be a little poke of like, hey, this isn't working, and everybody needs to reevaluate where we're at, because this is, like I said, this year has just been awful. And there's, and you just got to go, hey, everybody needs to be a little uncomfortable here in terms of you got to reevaluate where you're at, what you're doing, how you're getting this thing accomplished, because it isn't working. So let's realize we got to get some new ideas going here, and if we don't, somebody else is going to come in here and give us a new idea, so to speak. That's kind of where they're at.
Yeah, I don't. I don't want to see them stay the course.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got to be. If there's ever going to be a change, whenever it happens, it's got to be a shakeup. And they also have to demand more from their manager, who took a team strength and turned it into a huge handicap. I'm talking about their defense. So to me, that's a fireable offense right there.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen because Mo's got his back. And as I always repeat, what major changes are you going to make structurally when the manager says all the coaches are great? The president of baseball operations says the manager's doing a great job. The owner of the team says the president of baseball operations is doing a great job. So everybody's doing a great job. And I guess that's why you're, 16 games under 500? Because everybody's done such a great job? It just... But no, they really believe they're great. So there's no accountability in this organization. No real accountability on things that matter. From a baseball perspective, there's none.
That's disappointing.
Ali's got his coaches back. Mo's got Ali's back and the coaches back, and DeWitt's got Mosalek's back, and by extension, Ali's back, and the coaching staff's back. Okay. I'm glad you're all happy. Or not happy, but you should be pulling your hair out and you should be chomping at the bit to make massive changes in the way you do things. And maybe have a manager who understands, even though he fully was there for all of it, the benefit of having a terrific defense and how that can make your pitchers better. And he just threw that in the garbage this year. That in itself is a reason to change managers. But it ain't going to happen. It just ain't going to happen. And no one in the St. Louis media is going to go there. No one of any significance will go there. It's just not going to happen. That's one of the things. The Cardinals have an easy ride in St. Louis. They do. And I think that has a lot to do with how you sort of wind up where they are. We're great. Hey, we're great. Look at us. Sustained success. We're the model franchise. All this stuff. And every now and then someone will write something or say something that's a little edgy, and it's kind of like, whoa, ooh. Me? I kind of laugh at it, actually. Ain't nobody throwing punches, metaphorically speaking. No one. You barely get jabs in the media here, right?
Yeah.
So, the lack of accountability actually plays up to the media level as well. Not everybody, but I'm saying by and large.